So let me tell you the story of this guy. He catches feelings for this girl pretty hard, and the two of them start flirting. They seem to have this sort of instant chemistry about them.
A lot of the time it's really hard.
It's his first actual relationship, and even though things in his life are kind of hectic right now, there's some family drama going on, and he's got these newly acquired enemies trying to undermine his career. But at the very least, things seem to be going well with this girl. They even end up moving in together.
So, Harumi, looks like we're gonna be roomies for a while.
And going on this solo tropical getaway. It's all very romantic. Things seem to be progressing well. Until he finds out the truth. Turns out the drama, the career sabotage, it was all orchestrated by this chick. She lured him into a relationship in order to directly betray him, ruin his life, and get revenge on him because for some reason she blames him for the death of her parents. And I just want to be clear, her reasoning does not hold up. Not only is what happened to them not his responsibility, but this happened when they were children. She's definitely got a screw loose, just dead set on this ridiculous revenge scheme. And she's got this distinctive red face marking that sort of represents her true identity. Anyway, she's set on destroying his life, and it's kind of working. Our dude is just left spiraling. Luckily, his friends help to get him a little more stabilized, and he is able to stand up to this chick, but he is now increasingly depressed and paranoid. He thinks his main mistake was extending trust too easily, so he swears off all future trust relationships altogether.
You're trusting and good and see the best in people. Not anymore.
Eventually, this girl's revenge obsession ends up getting the best of her and completely backfires. So she's officially taken out of the picture and will not be bothering anyone for a long while. But the worst part is, our guy still has feelings for her.
You cared for her, didn't you?
Despite everything she's done to him, he still has this irrational attachment to her.
Your emotions.
Which is almost certainly part of the reason why he has actively hardened himself against the concept of trust. He hates how much he irrationally cares and never wants to be at the mercy of his emotions ever again. Some time passes. Things have mellowed out a bit. He's been staying with his friends. Things are okay. But our protagonist decides he's going to go on a backpacking trip overseas to go and visit and help out a friend. And he's going to do it on his own.
I have to go away for a while.
Now, he's in an unfamiliar place. There's obviously a bit of culture shock and he needs a little help. So he starts, let's go with anonymously chatting with this local who's willing to help him out. Helps him almost to an embarrassing degree.
You saved my life.
He is struggling on his own out here, but they have a great rapport. He really enjoys the time he spends talking with this person. You could even say they have a sort of instant chemistry together.
What about red? You get it? 'Cause, you know, this?
Now, this person is anonymous, so he feels a little more comfortable being more vulnerable. Maybe he's found a loophole on how to extend trust without any risk.
But I can tell you, you're just a wolf.
So he eventually gets comfortable enough with this person to tell them about his past, about the family drama and the career sabotage and the crazy ex-girlfriend.
There was this girl named Harumi, and I really thought she liked me, but I found out she was just pretending.
It honestly feels really good to get it off his chest. He's making some emotional progress, and he's headed to his friend's house. Everything's going great until he runs into this anonymous local in person.
You're Red?
Turns out she was hiding some key things about her identity from him, mainly that she was female. If we're being honest, that's the main hang up here.
You're a wolf? I mean, a girl?
He's got girl trauma, and here he is unknowingly spilling his guts to a chick his own age who is actively concealing her identity from him. It's understandably a little bit triggering. He feels like he's failed at his commitment to not trust anyone, and this is just proof that he needs to double down.
You're the one who can't be trusted.
I meant no harm.
Well, too late. Harm done.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
She obviously gets a little defensive about the whole bit, like, hey, I didn't ask for your life story. You spilled that all on your own.
It is not my fault you talk so much. Like so much.
They get in this big fight, but end up having to make a truce because she's hurt, he still doesn't know his way around, and they're both headed in the same direction anyway. So even if they don't like it, it is in both of their logical interests to stay together. But having listened to his many personal rambles, our mystery woman does trust this guy, and so extends an olive branch out to him. Hey, you've been very open with me, so I'm just gonna put all of my cards on the table so you don't think I'm hiding anything else.
I will share my tale with you.
Turns out there's this guy who killed her whole family when she was a child, and she is now enacting her years-long quest to get revenge on him. I should mention, she also has these very distinctive red face markings, which sort of symbolize her true identity. Curious. So our girl-troubled protagonist listens to this story that he's kind of primed to grate against and is a lot more receptive to it than he anticipates.
I had no idea.
Eventually, it's revealed that the person she's going to get revenge on is his friend that he's going to go visit.
Zane?
He obviously doesn't want to see his friend get hurt. He knows the kind of person he is and thinks there has to be some sort of a mix-up going on here. But he also knows our female lead is pretty set in her ways. Things between the two of them are still pretty uncertain, so he's left with a choice. This girl has the same dark, corrupted impulses that destroyed his life, and they are now pointed at a target he knows does not deserve it. So at this point, it would be reasonable to view her as the enemy, to put an end to her plans by any means necessary, because she is unhinged, blinded by anger, and going to ruin lives. He knows this from experience. Or he can do the thing he swore off and try and build trust, not only in asking for trust from her in his personal judgment, but in extending trust to her in believing she won't turn on him in order to get to his friend. And despite everything he's been through, he decides to risk it. He doesn't bring any aggression to her, only ever takes defensive actions, even goes out of his way to protect her, and trusts that she will make the correct choice. And she does. The honesty that they've shared with each other and the bond that they've formed is enough to get her to reconsider long enough for things to get straightened out. Because of his ability to forgive her initial deceit, to move past his previous biases, and to bet on the power of trust, he was able to not only help spare his friend and avoid the harm and damage that would have come from antagonizing her, but actively help heal the hurt that all of them have been carrying. So, just laying out the story like that, it seems pretty obvious, extremely obvious, painfully obvious, that our second female character is a direct parallel to our first female character. Right? Like, that would be the most basic observation that anyone on the face of the planet could make. And following along that same logic, if the plot decided to put some romantic tension in between our lead and our second female character, it would not feel strange at all, right? Because the plot is directly addressing our lead's romantic trauma. Like, it would almost be a no-brainer to complete his arc, to have him find a healthy romantic relationship to show that he's moved past the first one, right? Well, that's not the reaction the Ninjago fandom had. When season 11 of the show aired, the whole fandom went up in flames when the end of the season implied that Lloyd and Akita, our lead and female number 2 respectively, might have feelings for each other. I vividly remember the endless exasperation sparked by this single cheek kiss. Why can we not just have a male-female platonic friendship in this show? Why did you think you had to shoehorn this romance in at the last possible second? There was a lot of cope from certain members of the community insistent that this kiss had to be platonic, right? Right? Yeah, sure. On paper, a kiss on the cheek can be perfectly platonic. But I don't know. I think the suddenness of the kiss, everyone's surprised and bashful expressions afterwards, and the very direct staging of this kiss to be exactly the same as our previous romantic kiss on the cheek might be some small hints that this action might have some feelings behind it. Since then, the consensus has kind of settled down, solidified around the idea that, well, if you're gonna ship Lloyd, I guess this is the less bad option.
We truly are kindred spirits.
And before you make any judgments, let me just say I was right on that boat with everyone else. I hated this ship. What are you doing? Why would you have these two kiss each other on such short notice? Since then, I have become a huge defender of the ship. It single-handedly cured my writer's block, and I'm currently writing my longest-running fanfic surrounding their relationship. So, why include this? There's no point. I don't know. I'm maybe gonna try and defend it a little bit here. Loikita might be the best ship in the fandom, and I'm not even kidding. I will be sticking with Loikita and not Lokita. I know there's some debate around this, but that's the result of a poll that I did on the subject, and also the pronunciation that the most prolific voice on the matter currently, Dimension Master Studios, goes with. So,
Dimension Master Studios here, how y'all doing? I wanted to explain to you guys why Loikita is my personal favorite ship when it comes to Ninjago and why I love it so much.
I will be sticking with that consensus. I know a lot of people are going to be coming into this video skeptical or neutral, and if I haven't converted you by the end of the video, and I will be converting some of you by the end of the video. If I don't end up converting you, I anticipate you will be able to fully understand the appeal that other people see. Because it's there, it's real. This ship has been slowly accumulating its base over the years, and I'm just here to wake up the rest of you.
Before we begin, just the kind of stuff that I really shouldn't have to say, but after all, this is the internet, I guess. This is my opinion, this is not your opinion.
We're all having fun arguing about these things, right? You're not fighting with anyone for real about the merits of any art, are you?
As laid out in the opener, what really makes this relationship tick is its connection to Lloyd's previous relationship with Harumi, our female number one, a few seasons prior. And so to break down why Loikita works, I think it is instructive to compare the two directly. Larumi is an unbelievably dangerous minefield of a ship to talk about, which I will not be giving a full autopsy to today, but suffice it to say, given what we have in canon currently, it is unhealthy. Harumi starts a whole secret organization to plot Lloyd's downfall, tries to murder him numerous times, takes pleasure in his suffering, and has motives which no one on this planet has been able to convince me make sense. And I say none of this to bash the ship, that's kind of the whole appeal. I think Larumi is certainly an interesting concept. Lloyd still having feelings for her, I feel, is almost an inevitable part of any future romantic plot lines for him. Including it would just be good storytelling. You know, as long as we all acknowledge that following those feelings to their end point is a bad idea for him. Lloyd forgiving Harumi is part of his healing process, but Lloyd getting together with Harumi? This is a bad idea. You should not be dating your former abuser who also is maybe your adopted sister at this point.
Let me be your child.
That's not a good idea. That's not a good idea for you. That's not a good idea for anyone. I don't think that's ever been a good idea for anyone. The show moving toward healthy Larumi endgame is a terrible idea. Inevitably doomed Larumi as a plot point somewhere along the way is something I might be open to. And Lloyd still harboring some unhealthy feelings for his first crush is, in my book, pretty clearly necessary if we ever want to do romance with him again. You have to address the trauma before you move past it, and I would argue that is exactly what Loikita is doing. The plot pairs him up with someone he is instinctively going to be distrustful of, who puts up all of those Harumi adjacent red flags, and then proceeds to systematically break down all of his preconceptions about her, proving to him that Harumi is the exception, not the rule. For one, Akita, unlike Harumi, is honest. She does hold back some information at the start of their interactions, but her wolf form is just as much a part of her as her human form. This is not a deception happening here. And when she is a wolf, she is still acting genuinely. She just waits to share more about herself until the relationship has progressed, which is extremely normal behavior for all humans. Lloyd perceives this as another betrayal, but unlike Harumi, Akita's personality makes no switch after the reveal. Akita is bored by Lloyd's personal stories, sympathetic to his losses, and trusting in his overall mission both as a wolf and as a human. And this means that all of the chemistry and development built up between Lloyd and Red still stands even after the betrayal, which you cannot say for Harumi.
Feeding the poor? Acting scared? It was all an act?
She is not like an Aladdin scenario where it's like, well, he lied to me, but I actually got to know him better even through the lie. Like, no, this is Hans.
If only there was someone out there who loved you.
There was never anything between us.
The girl that Lloyd falls in love with in these moments doesn't exist. She is a facsimile of a woman created by Harumi in order to entrap him. This is part of why his feelings for her are so toxic, is because they aren't for her. They're for an imaginary girlfriend that his mind constructed and then projected onto the least viable candidate possible. Harumi's identity-defining red mark is revealed to Lloyd after her betrayal, finally showing her true colors. Akita's red markings of identity are a sign that she is one and the same as the wolf we already know. Not only is Akita a proof point that most people are honest in their dealings even if you feel like they're being deceitful, but she is extremely open with her compulsion to be honest. She's clear with her criticisms of him, tells him when she thinks he's wrong, and is not willing to mince words to spare his feelings.
How? By boring him to death with stories about Harumi?
And that all might sound pretty negative, but it means that when Akita is kind to him or gives him her word, that it's a lot easier to trust it. There's no paranoia about true intentions needed when you are fully confident the person in front of you would not hesitate to insult you if that's what they wanted to do. Another key difference between these women is that Harumi is very much centered on her previous damage and cannot move past it. At every opportunity she is given to move forward, at every second chance she is presented with, she turns her head and immediately proceeds to dump further salt into her own wounds.
This isn't what you want.
Oh no. This is just the beginning.
And this rubs off on Lloyd, as he too is convinced that old trauma might be impossible to ever move past, most notably Harumi.
I can't fight her!
But his plotline with Akita directly displays that healing is possible. This whole plotline is just one big hurt comfort fanfic.
We're gonna be okay. We're gonna be just fine. I'll take care of you.
Most of the time these two are together is spent in makeshift therapy sessions, expressing their feelings, talking through their past, and finding comfort in the other listening and understanding.
It's kinda nice to be able to get this off my chest, actually.
Not only do we have this surface level of Lloyd and Akita both sharing their past traumas, but two additional levels of healing. First, we obviously have Lloyd and Akita repairing their relationship after the whole wolf reveal. Each can acknowledge they were quick to judgment and are able to apologize.
I am sorry I deceived you.
I'm sorry too.
And all of that is framed within the healing of Akita's physical injuries, which acts as the inciting incident for the wolf reveal.
That's the bandage I put on Red.
And pushes them to stay together and heal their relationship with each other shortly after.
You're still hurt.
Harumi represents the deep scars which trust can form, but Akita represents the healing that it most often provides. As pointed out in my season 11 video, Akita is currently Ninjago's one and only shot at an in-show slow burn romance. Every other romance in the show, including Harumi, follows the exact same playbook. The guy instantly falls in love with the girl every single time. Even if you want to drag Dragon's Rising into this, Wildfire sees Roby and immediately falls in love with him. So it's a gender reversal. There's no long plays anywhere in any of the shows. I just want to jump in and quickly add here. I guess we technically don't know how Geode got together. That happened off screen, so I don't know if that really counts. But we now also know that Frack immediately got a crush on Sora, so...
Trying to find the smartest and most attractive member of our team.
But Sora's right here. What?
Whether you ship Loikita or not, everyone can agree that there is no romantic tension between them at the start, because they actually have to go through the gauntlet of getting to know each other. You could also argue there's a bit of an enemies to lovers dynamic going on with these two when Akita reveals her human form, which again is not something that we've seen anywhere else in the show. I can't help but think that this is a contributing factor as to why the romance at the end threw people off so much, because it broke with the show's standard way of portraying these things and was ultimately pretty subtle with any of the romantic chemistry they were trying to build. It's almost certainly more realistic, but also it turns out not enough for most audiences to read. Compared to Larumi, which escalated so quickly with so little information, and that's part of why it didn't work. If Lloyd weren't instantly taken with Harumi, her manipulation would have been a lot harder to pull off. Loikita takes its time and is willing to let these two come to each other once they're ready and have a more full picture of each other. It shows Lloyd that romance isn't necessarily something you have to dive into head first, high risk, high reward. You can take it slow at your own comfort level.
Take care of yourself.
You too.
One key difference that I think Akita and Harumi have is their relatability to Lloyd. Now, this might be a bit of a controversial take, as the previously mentioned Dimension Master Studios pretty clearly disagrees with me on this one. He's got a 40-minute video dissecting why Loikita is his favorite ship. He's got some great thoughts. Everyone should go check it out. But he seems insistent that Lloyd and Akita are fairly similar because they both have trust issues and they both had their family taken from them by an evil emperor.
We get this one moment that is a shot-for-shot recreation of the Yoni Titan destroying the Destiny's Bounty during the Season 8 finale.
Which, yeah, fair enough. They've both been through some stuff. But I would argue, at least on a personality basis, they couldn't be more different. Lloyd is a people person, thrives when his friends surround him. He's always got his team to back him up, even when half of them get taken to an entirely separate realm, and he's always looking for opportunities to make meaningful connections with others. Akita has chosen to stay alone as a wolf in the woods for like 60 years. So
the forest is my home.
I've got a hunch she might be an introvert. Lloyd is also a people pleaser. He is very polite and cordial in all of his interactions, as a default wants people to have a high opinion of him, and is willing to make sacrifices to make that happen. Akita, as established, does not care what you think and will readily insult you at a moment's notice if she feels so inclined. Lloyd's family dynamic is a gigantic mess. Meanwhile, Akita's family is the main source of her joy. They're from two very different cultural backgrounds. Even their trust issues are different.
You and I, we're on the same quest.
Not the same.
Lloyd is very specifically worried about another personal betrayal. Meanwhile, Akita is more generally wary of the potential danger lurking in the world around her. She's never been betrayed. There are all of these surface level ways in which they very much differ from each other, but those differences help round each other out, and the few things they do have in common are those deeper, more resonant feelings. Their feelings of loss and of newfound companionship. It helps emphasize to Lloyd that it's not those surface level indicators which form meaningful connections, but the deeper values and emotions one can share. One of the reasons Lloyd thought he was connecting with Harumi so well is that she too was a powerful public figure. Oh my gosh, you also have pressure on yourself to represent other people and have a messy parental situation and like sneaking out to go feed orphans? She's just like me for real. And sure, those are a perfectly fine starting point, but there is so much more to any meaningful relationship than the icebreaker questions that you answer the same. The last difference between these two, I feel, is the most important, and that is the way our two love interests view Lloyd. To Harumi, Lloyd is the Green Ninja, a powerful public presence with a long history in the city, a deific lineage, the weight of the world on his shoulders, and the reason her parents are dead. To Akita, Lloyd is just some guy.
My name is Lloyd. What am I doing?
He's a dumb tourist who continually almost gets himself killed and has a weirdly messy personal life.
That's my dad. Garmadon, Lord of Destruction, King of Shadows.
He's boring and unimportant and strange, but kind and warm. He's a person. And she's one of the only characters in the show that can say that. Every single one of Lloyd's interactions with 99% of people inevitably have to go through this lens of, I am the Green Ninja. Even when with his teammates, the Green Ninja means nothing to Akita. He's a ninja, he wears green, I guess. Absolutely none of the expectation or weight or praise from his station carries over to his interactions with Akita. She is someone who he can truly and completely be himself with, where all of the things that have always mattered all the time, his whole life,
But this is who I am.
don't have to matter anymore. And I think that's something really special. So I think that's the bulk of the argument for why this is a good relationship for Lloyd on a personal level and on a character arc level, but it is also a great relationship for Akita. She's been alone in the woods for 60 years. I am inclined to assume that a lot of that time was spent as a wolf. It's an easier form to survive in out in the wild, it gives her the best combat advantage on any physical threats, and it easily stays warmer in the magical winter she's stuck in. So here we have a person who has chosen to actively suppress their humanity to an extent for an extended period of time. Additionally, she is very weary about the world at large and believes that there is very little good left in it. And one day, there's this weird guy in the woods that she's never seen before. He is outwardly a bumbling idiot who does not know what he's doing, and Akita, seeing herself as one of the forces for good left in the world, keeps him from getting his face eaten off. To her surprise, he repays this kindness with some food, a hard thing to come by in the Neverrealm. He's a bit of a kooky character.
I gotta be crazy.
She doesn't really know what his end goal is, but he too seems to be trying to make good in the world, so she decides to follow him. As she does, she is met with just a wall of compassion and interaction. An overwhelming amount of interaction, quite frankly, for someone who's been as isolated as she has. But he represents change, and a good one at that, so Akita finds herself tentatively attached to his mystery mission. Eventually, it comes out that she is more than she initially let on. This really seems to rattle the guy for some reason, and she by no means needs him at this point, so she's ready to walk almost immediately. The only problem is she's hurt. She quite literally cannot walk. But Lloyd, being the good boy we know he is, pushes past his anger and again reaches out to help her. And it's at this moment that she realizes not only is this person someone who's out doing good, but someone who actually cares about me. Something she hasn't had for decades. Not only does Lloyd give her trust in the world back, but it gives her her trust in her own humanity back. That's beautiful. A really cool little detail backing this up that Dimension Master Studios pointed out is that as the season goes on, the frequency in which Akita uses her human form slowly increases. And by the time we get to the finale, she's using her human form not only to converse, but also to fight. That's cool. That's such a cool detail. Now, unfortunately, the season does end with their separation. The cheek kiss, I think, solidifies their depth of growth as people. Akita, previously viewing herself as something no longer quite human, now sees herself excitingly expressing one of the most complex human emotions possible. Lloyd, previously traumatized by the thought of romance, finds himself nervously excited at the idea another girl might like him. And both of them have only been able to reach this point because of the trust they were able to extend to each other. And this gesture sets the stage for the continuation of this slow burn romance at whatever point they might meet again. Lloyd does have to go back to his own realm, and Akita stay with her newly released family in the Neverrealm. But things end on a hopeful note. Akita is certain she will see Lloyd again.
As for Lloyd, my brother thinks I will never see him again, but I think he is wrong.
Now, that isn't exactly true.
But I think he is wrong.
Strictly speaking, in Ninjago, the TV show, they never see each other again. So that's a bit of a downer. Luckily, we do have a sequel series to Ninjago called Dragons Rising, in which all of the realms of Ninjago are magically combined into one. The perfect excuse to bring Akita back into play and complete this romantic healing arc that the creators started so long ago. So do it. Do it. I demand that you finish what you started here. You can't just leave it unfinished. Thing is, we actually know that we're going to get some content involving Lloyd romance in some way in the future, because apparently asking about Lloyd's opinions on these two characters is a spoiler. So I guess we'll see how that plays out.
She's with us.
It's just, they have a lot of good options here. But they've also got some really bad options, and I'm not 100% confident that they won't gravitate towards the bad options. Now, the creators of Dragons Rising do seem to have a fondness for Akita as a character. The original concepts for their new lead, Sora, were heavily based on Akita, and I've only ever seen them speak well of her, so I'd say there's a pretty decent chance she does return at some point. But if the creators need any more convincing that Loikita is definitely the door they should be walking through, there's one last piece that I feel makes this potential couple all the more perfect for each other, and that is their ages. Yes, for realsies, I'm not kidding. This is how we're ending the video. Now, for those of you not familiar with the show, and even some of you who are, you might have done a double take when I mentioned Akita alone in the woods for 60 years. The whole timeline of this season is kind of whack because the creators wanted to do a twist and then didn't bother to explain the twist, so nobody actually understands how anything works. But that is an entirely different video that you should go watch on LEGO's website later. But to keep things short, we know that there is at least a 60-year time gap in between Akita's family being murdered and our present day shenanigans. The explanation that we have been given for this is that formlings, which is what Akita is,
I am Akita, a formling.
They age just much slower. It's a Grogu situation, and that is why Akita looks and acts like your average young adult after 60 plus years of life. Now, Lloyd certainly hasn't been around that long. In fact, he magically aged up from kid to teenager in season 2, so he's got less years under his belt than you might initially anticipate. That being said, he and Akita do appear to be about the same mental maturity level in season 11, and Lloyd does canonically have genetics which slow his aging to a significant degree and mean he will survive thousands of years longer than his human counterparts. It's like they were specifically made for each other.
What do you say? You win?
Now, there is a question I have been dancing around this whole video. If this ship is so obviously good, then why did everyone have such a negative gut reaction? As displayed in the opening, I think if you look at the full picture, their romance seems almost inevitable from a story standpoint. The thematic parallels are definitely there. I mean, the story directly reminds us of Lloyd's romantic blunder with Harumi. There's certainly ample time given to building his and Akita's chemistry and storyline, and as mentioned, Akita's backstory is functionally identical to Harumi's. And if you accept this framing of Akita as a narrative salve to Harumi, I think there's a world of beautiful romantic storytelling to be had here. Thing is, we weren't looking at the full picture. The framing of Loikita as a direct response to Larumi is something directly fought against by the staging of the season. Season 11 marked a soft reboot for the show's story. It's technically a separate show altogether, and so the mentions of previous plot lines don't feel like things that recently happened in the show's story, but rather fun Easter eggs. The show treats it like a joke, and it functions as filler dialogue, which could have been replaced with a description of any of their other previous adventures and functioned exactly the same.
And I'm thinking, what am I supposed to do? There's no spinjitzu move for this.
We had just come off a string of seasons with extremely high continuity to each other, and this installment was purposefully trying to build up a barrier between itself and the past of the show. So the impulse to see this plotline as a continuation of a character arc started in season 8 is actively squashed out of the audience by the show's framing. I find myself almost certain that this plotline was conceived as a way to get Lloyd past his Harumi hangups, but because of the priority to make the lore for this new show easy as possible to follow, the tone light, the moral simple to latch onto, it got watered down to the point where those initial intentions are hardly legible in the final product. I mean, Lloyd and Akita's problems with each other resolved themselves within a matter of seconds. It is a small handful of minutes. If this was meant to be the conclusion of 4 seasons worth of development, it needed to be a little bit longer than that. There is so much baked in potential for a perfect romantic character arc. They just don't use any of it. The good news is, that potential is still there. If they were to bring back Akita, they haven't shot any of the ammo that they loaded. You can still hit the target head on. We know Lloyd still has Harumi baggage because they dredged it all back up during Crystallized. And Akita, as a character resistant to change, having to adapt to a post-merge world, is the perfect hurdle for her to overcome. All the pieces are there, they just have to finish the story. And if they don't, I will. I am writing my own Loikita romance epic about trust and healing that takes place just after season 1 because that's when I started writing it. It's called Women Who Try to Kill You. Go check it out. It's on AO3. Fair warning, I am really slow to update and it's maybe only halfway finished, but I am really proud of it and I will finish it. It's all in my head already. It's just the process of getting it down, which is difficult. If you liked the ideas in this video, you will almost certainly enjoy what I have written and what I have planned. So go check it out if it sounds interesting to you. I'll leave a link in the description. But seriously, whatever you end up doing with her, you do need to bring Akita back. The fact that season 11 just ends on a lie annoys me to no end. Dogs. Only makes sense we would get dogs on the Akita base.